Glorious fire burns inside me, warming my soul as I pull metal through to my ocean, lining the passageway that links my being together. Holy shit, metal is so good. This is so amazing. 2 years of massaging that tunnel open, overshadowed in an instant from a simple, if rather expensive, snack. This is incredible. It's like eating my first soul all over again, but without any of that nasty guilt attached. Also, my soul has teeth now, so that's pretty fucking cool. What is that? Jaleesa whispers as I drop another chunk of metal down through my soul. What are you doing? Partly to be coy but mostly because I'm curious, I ask her. What does it look like I'm doing? I don't know. When you eat that, I can't believe you're eating metal, but when you do and I stare at your soul it almost looks like, for an instant, you're bigger than the room. Like I'm staring at something far larger and deeper than could be possible. Oh, cool, I say, grinning as I pop another bite-sized chunk down my throat. You can actually see me for a moment. What are you? She asks breathlessly. Come on, isn't it obvious by now? I ask her. If your Mistwatcher counts as a god, then that obviously makes me a goddess. I almost chuckle at the torrent of conflicting emotions that gives her, but unfortunately Uz chooses this moment to walk up and ruin my fun. That's not inaccurate, he butts in, stepping back into the cell with us. Though obviously, there is a somewhat significant difference in scale. Hey, come on, I snap at him. She's going to be less likely to believe it if you back me up on it. I think you might be the only person I have ever felt Yelizaveta hate. What? Uz scowls. Why, Inquisitor, we haven't even had a proper conversation. Have the values of the Templars truly fallen so far? Her whole body shaking, Jaleesa still stares firmly right at the cognomancer and answers. You called me a pet, and you were about to soul rapi me before Vita stopped you. He frowns, but after a brief delay nods his head in acknowledgement. I loathe to phrase it that way, but... Fair point, well made. Anyway, Vita, you realize we could have used all that metal, yes? I am using it, I protest. Eating it counts as using it. And I'll have you know it's delicious. Really? He hums curiously. Fascinating. Oh, I see your teeth have grown in. That's wonderful. I theorized that such a thing may occur at some point in your development. Was eating this metal the triggering event? He leans down, getting very uncomfortably close. I snarl at him and resist the urge to lash out with a fist, but I fail to do the same with a tentacle. To my surprise, however, the tentacle actually makes contact with his face and pushes him away. Whoa! I say excitedly, metal temporarily forgotten. I can touch you. I immediately start doing exactly that with numerous additional tentacles, poking and prodding him all over, which he primly pretends to ignore. Indeed, believe it or not, animatangibility is a rather useful skill for Animank, MRPH. I cut off his words by squishing his cheeks together, making his lips puff out like a fish. I giggle a little, smooshing his face around until he finally gives in and steps away. Personal space, RC Warzy, I chide. I get the distinct impression that were I not his estranged sort of child I might have just turned myself a soul-flaying, but it's not often I'm on the beneficial side of favoritism, so I'd best take advantage of it. Besides, watching Yelizaveta and my revenants react with mind-numbing horror is just too funny to stop. Quite. Well, I'm sure you would be startled to learn I am not the slightest bit interested in remaining in this cell, and would like to request that we make our way to the exit. So if you could snack as you go? That's not startling at all, I protest, but yeah, sure. We've got a lot to do and a lot of stairs to climb. I gather up the rest of the metal for on-the-go snacking, ordering my revenants to walk ahead of us and the other half to walk behind as we finally enter the stairwell. It's a spiral column that rises far, far above us, and R's mood drops considerably as he cranes his neck to stare upwards at it all. Oh. That really is a lot of stairs, R sighs to himself. Well, you won't have to walk them all at once, I answer, rolling one of my eyes. We have a few stops to make on the way. Should we not escape as soon as possible? He protests. What? I smirk up at him, and leave all those witnesses around willy-nilly. He snorts with amusement. Touché. All the Templars on the floor directly above us have already descended to guard ours, and are therefore my revenants, so I just order one of them to free all the prisoners on that floor and guide them to us. Same with the floor after that. From there on it's just one Templar floor for a while, which is easy pickings. I turn most of them into snacks, handing out key rings to my slaves to go gather a menagerie of prisoners. The process takes a long time, as there are a lot more prisoners on every floor other than the bottom, so I don't actually see any as we continue making our way upstairs. By the fourth floor, Ars is huffing and puffing like he just ran from one edge of the island to the other. I guess I shouldn't really blame him if he's been unable to exercise for a decade and a half, but it's still annoying. I do not feel. Ars wheezes, cut out for these exertions. Rather than answer him, I carefully reach over and wrap tendrils around his body, lifting him up over my head with them as he flails around a bit in surprise. Gee goodness. He yelps. This is somewhat undignified. I suppress a grin, mentally tallying myself a new record in the how flabbergasted I can make Jaleesa game. A girl has to develop a few hobbies in prison, after all, or she goes crazy. You were the one bothering me to hurry things along, I remind him, popping my last chunk of metal down my throat. I look forward to the fact that I'm about to get a lot more when those prisoners catch up with us and I steal their collars. You should really be more respectful to your elders, Ars complains, letting himself hang in the air like the creepy doll he kind of is. I respect people if they deserve respect, I grunt back. It would go a long way, in my case, if you quit being so cryptic and started explaining what you know about me. Now, don't not being cryptic until you try it out for a while, he disagrees. An amazingly large number of people think you're smarter than they are exclusively because they don't know what you're talking about. It's hilarious. Well, I just think it's annoying. Come on, spill. Bah. I'm not sure what there is to say. Your intuition has already figured out the most important piece, Use that brain of yours. I scowl, but answer anyway. Well, you said I was right when I claimed to be a goddess. So I'm probably directly descended from the Mistwatcher somehow? He laughs. No. On the contrary, Vita. You and you alone are the only person that isn't descended from the Mistwatcher. I stop walking halfway up a flight of stairs. What? Your pet here, your enslaved souls, everyone else you see. Before birth, the Mistwatcher gave them all fragments of its soul, fragments which are now inseparably part of who they are, Ars explains, slowly becoming more and more engaged as he speaks. They were born for the Mistwatcher and they will die for the Mistwatcher, but you, Vita, are something beyond that. I crafted your soul myself, at first as a tracing project to help myself understand the shape of God's true being, copying the essence of nature's greatest animancer. But unknowingly, what I made was an empty vessel. One that you, somehow, found and filled. I gave you your human body, mostly to see what would happen, but you existed far before me. You are no child of the Mistwatcher. You are, I suspect, something more akin to its sibling. I digest that while I digest the last of my metal, not really sure what to do with that information. Ars doesn't feel like he's lying. But I'm not totally sure that means I can trust him. Ultimately, I suppose, my origins only matter insofar as they inform me about what I can do now. Jaleesa, similarly, chews on that information with suspicion but not with outright rejection. Which is surprising, as even most of my Templar revenants immediately dismiss Ars' words as malicious nonsense. What are you thinking, Jaleesa? I ask curiously. She chews on her lip a bit, picking out tiny shards of chitin from her face that ended up stabbing her when I smashed her helmet. How did you cast with the collar on? She asks back. On one hand, giving her information might not be smart, but on the other hand she's curious for reasons beyond the security concerns, so I decide to indulge her. I don't use the Mistwatcher's mana, I explain. I have my own internal pool of it that I draw out from somewhere else. It's mana, but it's a different kind of mana, I guess, so standard detection spells don't recognize it. Again, she's quiet for a bit as she thinks, the gears in her head turning just a bit further towards blasphemy. I see, she eventually says. You're not thinking of starting a cult about me, are you? I joke. Of course not, she answers firmly. You're a murderer and a mind draper. The answer startles me, along with the hurtful spike of raw disgust that accompanies it. I find myself unable to form a response. We continue ascending the stairs, en route to the first and most important stop on our journey, as I chew on her words. I feel the need to answer before we get to our destination. I didn't choose to be what I am, I tell her. I can only play the hand I'm given. If my talent, or whatever I have, wasn't fucked up, I wouldn't have to use fucked up methods to escape your torture prison. I wouldn't even be in here in the first place. Michael screamed in protest as you made him try to murder his friends, Jaleesa responds, her eyes distant. You tortured them. They tortured me first. So what? She shouts, surprising me again. You didn't have to do it back. I thought you were better than that. My tendrils curl in irritation, causing us to wriggle as I squeeze him a bit harder on accident. If she was the one that had been locked up and tortured for 2 years, I bet she wouldn't be spouting this shit. I don't have the luxury of being nice all the time, Jaleesa, I growl. The world doesn't work like that. It's not about how the world works, she says quietly. It's about integrity. What's the point of anything if you're not at least better than the people you hate? Superiority is relative, my dears, ours butts in before I can respond, stumbling a bit as I set him down on the floor we finally just reached. Well, I want no part of whatever you use to judge it, then, Jaleesa snaps back, though the animancer's responding frown causes her to flinch in terror. I don't know how to continue that conversation, or if I even should, but it doesn't matter anymore. We made it. I open the door to the floor of this awful, terrible prison where my mother is currently rushing around, looking for me. She's here. After 2 fucking years, she's here, messing with a lock at the other end of the hallway. She takes one look at the massive Templar armor walking into the hall and drops what she's doing, drawing her knives bursting towards us. I grab my helmet and throw it off, grinning like a fool. Mum. I greet her, arms outstretched for a hug. I feel the instinct of recognition, and though she has no time to sheath her weapons, she has plenty of time to outstretch her arms in return and tackle into me, wrapping me up in a whole-body hug as I stagger backwards from the impact. Her soul is the same beautifully warm gold as always, but I'm not sure I'd have been able to tell it was her if I was limited to normal senses. No hint of her normally messy red hair is visible underneath a black balaclava, which covers her nose and mouth to only leave her eyes visible. I'm slightly taller than I used to be, and it startles me, the feel of the hug different from both that and the surprisingly alien-feeling muscles rippling under her arms. Vita. She greets me, her voice and her soul full of worry and joy and love. You're okay. Oh, fuck, you're okay. Did Sky get you out? Nah, I got myself out. He's a pretty great distraction, though. The faraway sound of an explosion punctuates my point. Ha. You're still my little ruffian. Lynn says, her eyes starting to get wet. I'm so glad you're safe. Let's get you out of here, yeah? That sounds awesome, I agree. But, can I ask? Did you and Sky have any, financial backing? It's not like I expected Penelope to break me out herself. She probably has some scheme or another that makes it better for her to send other people to do it, but I can't help but be a little bothered by her conspicuous absence. Lynn just ruffles my hair, though, flashing me one of her usual grins. Honey, she never stopped looking for you for a second. Sorry it took us this long to get here. I grin back. Now I feel bad for doubting her. It's okay, Mom, I tell her. You're here now. I'm here now. She agrees. But well, look at you. You must have grown 2 more inches, and also an, eyeball. Yeah, I grow eyeballs now. Neat. So who are your friends here? Are they all dead, or? No, just the ones with helmets. This is Inquisitor Yelizaveta. She didn't torture me, and I thought that was nice of her. And this is First Lord and former High Inquisitor Ars Rania, Madame, Ars says, bowing lightly and holding out a fingerless hand to shake. Charmed, I'm sure. Lynn does not accept the hand, instead staring at it wide-eyed like it's an entire island about to fall on top of her head. Oh. She answers, with significantly more volume than necessary. Okay. This is your one and only warning, Ars, I tell him frankly. If you so much as look at my mom in a way I don't like, I will kill you. I thought you said you were an orphan, he answers, idly ignoring my death threat as he retracts his hand. I mean yeah, but I got adopted a few years ago, kinda, I say. Honestly, I just like calling her mom because it makes her feel old. Vita, can we have like a private mother-daughter talk for a second? Lynn squeaks. I shrug and quickly cast a silence spell around us. What's up? I ask her. Okay honey, the brain parasites were one thing, but I definitely draw the line at bringing ours fucking Rainier home. I get that I'm a pretty hands-off mom, but, you know, I gotta put my foot down somewhere, and it is absolutely at some point before, whatever this is. I mean, I agree, I answer, shrugging. But I just learned he might actually be my air quotes real dad in at least some weird wibbly way, and more importantly I need his help to kill a couple more High Templars. We can ditch him after that. Alright, well on that note, our escape plan is Capita. Sky freed her and got our halves back together, but she's in bad shape. We should regroup with them as fast as possible and get out of here. I was sort of hoping to kill the rest of the Templars before we go, I complain. Lynn seems surprised at that. I don't know why. I didn't exactly have a fun time here, Mom, I clarify. Right, well, I don't think we have time for that. So let's get going, alright? I nod and dismiss the silence spell. Okay, our ticket out of here is 8 floors up, and she's under attack, I announce. Let's move. Watcher's eyes, more stairs, Ours sighs. I smirk and start leading the way. Ours declines getting another tentacle ride, so he huffs and puffs laboriously all the way up to the floor where a furious battle currently rages. Revenants, keep Jaleesa away from the fight and don't let her interfere, I order, booting down the door. Before us is quite the chaotic battle site. In the middle of the hallway, facing away from us, an Inquisitor captain and a powerful Templar that I am surprised to find doesn't have High Templar armor stand among the perforated corpses of dozens of other Templars as Sky, on the far end of the hall, tears open more of the floor, walls, and ceiling to blast it towards them. The Inquisitor captain, I immediately note, is actually a splice, a cylindrical column of thrumming, rock-hard soul impales an otherwise spherical, apparently talentless base soul. He and Sky are locked in a dangerous, long-range dance with each other where Sky constantly pesters him with stones which are blocked with invisible forces that seem to be projected from the captain's hands. Meanwhile, the other powerful soul defends by freezing giant blocks of air solid, blocking the larger attacks with ease, though the structures rapidly sublimate after being created. Still, the whole hallway is terribly frigid, and doubtlessly as the ambient temperature drops, the Templar's talent will become easier and easier to use. Behind Sky, both Capita bodies rest, one bloody and kneeling on the floor where her other half hugs her around the shoulders. She looks up when I kick down the door, at first hope and joy filling her face before she spots ours. Wherein all of it immediately vanishes, instantly replaced with nothing but terror. Before I can so much as get a word out, she grabs Sky and both of them vanish. Capita, our ticket out, is no longer in my sensory range, and the two super powerful souls both turn to face us instead. Did Capita just run away from me? Ours grumbles indignantly. What an ungrateful little brat. I'm significantly more worried about the two Templars in front of us, I tell him. I never intended to teleport out anyway. I don't really want to get close to either of those talents. Any ideas? Ours. The Inquisitor captain roars. Damn it. You are not leaving. You are never leaving. Ours scowls and I step in front of him as streams of mana try to crush and restrain us. I let my own burst forth from my body, surprised at the ease with which it flows, and obliterate the spell. Manas, Ours greets him back, seemingly unperturbed. I do hope we can work together again soon. I suppose I will have to deal with this situation. Miss Lynn, would you mind lending me your knife? Lynn sends a questioning glance my way, and I shrug, busy focusing on nullifying Mana's kineticism talent. She flips her knife around and catches it by the blade, holding it out to Ours hilt first. Perfect, thank you, he says, clamping it between two fingerless palms. This is where I depart, then. Do come visit me when you get out, won't you, Vita? Huh? I say, confused. Then my mind catches up with the words. Wait, help me kill these guys. No thank you. I've little reason to stay. Our teleporter is gone, after all, and there's certainly no way I'm going to walk up the rest of those stairs. Then, giving me a polite nod goodbye, he swings the blade upwards and stabs himself through the eye. His body collapses immediately, but somehow he's not dead. He doesn't feel dead. He rises from his body, wretched mockery of a soul fully conscious despite being unanchored to flesh. Then it shoots upwards like an arrow, unaffected by pedestrian things like gravity and mass as he leaves Lin and I to face the Templars alone. Wow, Oz is kind of a dick. Still, the whole emergency soul ejection thing is pretty cool. I wonder where it's going. Wait, is this why all the Templars have been ardently against killing me despite how much they hate me? Do they think I can do that? Can I do that? Questions for later, I suppose. It's not like I want to try it. Manus intends to capture me alive either way, and I'd rather prefer to avoid that. But how the hell do I deal with this guy? If it was just him I could probably rush right at him, nullifying his kineticism talent with my mana, and then either yank his soul or, I dunno, beat the shit out of him with my fists I guess. I'm actually strong enough for that to be a valid strategy. I can probably crush him like a grape. Or Lin could stab him, though I'm not sure I can protect us both. Unfortunately, there's also the ice guy. The ice guy is a fucking problem. His frigid barriers are mostly opaque, but only mostly, and I wouldn't be surprised if Manus could aim his talent through them. Meanwhile, if I try to punch them I will probably lose the skin on my hand. Not to mention that if I get close enough to do so I can be surrounded by ice walls outside my mana disruption range, and then I'm fucked. Uck, it's like fighting Capita and Sky all over again. If I just get close these assholes are dead, but both of them are really, really good at keeping people away. He got away, Manus growls. He fucking got away. Do you have any idea what evil you've unleashed? No, not really, I admit. The pressure of mana around me eases up. Interesting. Does this mean he wants to talk? Sure, we can talk. I've talked with a lot of Templars now, and I'm getting pretty good at it. That's right, Manus mutters to himself. You can't remember him, can you? Fuck. It was you that freed him after you got out, then. Yeah, I confirm. Some High Templar was coming down to fuck me up so I figured, hey I bet the prisoner next door would enjoy killing Templars. Lo and behold, he was pretty good at it. Then he claimed to sort of be my dad, complained about stairs a bunch, and stabbed himself in the eye. That's all I know of the guy. You, on the other hand, I've been watching for 2 years. I focus the eye of my soul on him, drinking in every minute fluctuation of his being that betrays his emotions and hints at his thoughts. I've always struggled to get people to see things how others do. Even after I could read emotions directly, I still never figured out the trick to making use of that information beyond lie detection until Penelope gave me some advice. I haven't exactly had anything better to do in prison than build up all the skills I can, and this one can be pretty entertaining. When learning emotions, she said, it isn't enough only to try and figure out why someone feels the way they do. If you do that, you can make guesses but not figure out if those guesses are right or not. The trick is to also use that guess, dissect it, and figure out how to get this person to feel whatever you want them to feel. If you can successfully manipulate someone, you know for a fact that you understand them. Manus is terrified, first and foremost. That wasn't the case until ours escaped, so I'm going to guess he's scared of the guy. Manus is furious, mostly at himself and again probably for letting ours get away. He's confused, because he doesn't understand how we got out. From his perspective, the attacking forces got delayed here, no one should have made it to the lower levels. He doesn't know how Lin slipped by him, and my guess is that he thinks she freed me. Which wouldn't be possible unless she can kill 5 Templars by herself. So he's probably overestimating her right now, and an extra flash of concern when he glances her way confirms that for me. I'm not sure I want to send Lin on a bluff she can't afford to get called, though. It's kind of like a puzzle, really. Or maybe a set of toy blocks. Something fun to take apart and put back together. How do I want the pieces to be arranged? Ideally, I could get him so fucking furious that he charges right at us or something stupid like that, but I don't think that's very likely. He's closer to despair than anger, so that should be a better way to get him to act foolish. Just like that bitch Victoria. It's kind of funny, really, I continue. You're so worked up about some cognomancer escaping when you've been free this entire time. Does the sketch just miss having his artist around? His eyes narrow, jaw clenching. Oh, whoops. That really pissed him off, actually. Okay, maybe we'll go with anger after all. I let mana flow through my tentacles, twisting them around and shaping it into a subtle kinemancy spell to send Lin a message only she can hear. Who needs fingers, anyway? Mom nods, stepping back towards the staircase as I stride slowly forward, watching both Templars carefully. Manus mostly doesn't give a shit, content to let me approach, while the ice user actively tries not to react because he, of course, wants me to be closer. He probably won't butt in until I get in his attack range, which is what I want. What did you just call me? Manus hisses. And here I thought you didn't remember. I don't remember ours, no, I tell him. But I've met Splices. I know what you are. And I know you have two talents, that geneticism bullshit. And cognomancy. Cognomancy that you regularly use on your own Templars, because you are an abusive, power-hungry hypocrite. I only cast to the degree necessary to ensure my people are not being tampered with by the likes of you, Manus snaps. Animancy is needed to combat animancy. Yeah, but how often is it really needed compared to when you end up using it? I taunt. You do more tampering than anyone else in this entire building. Every week I feel you mind-fucking someone into obedience, drilling them with questions, then mind-fucking them back to normal before wiping their memories of it all. It's not necessary. You're just addicted. Ooh, that one hit home, and not just in Manus. Jaleesa and the ice guy are reacting to that. Interesting. I will not discuss prison security policies with a prisoner, Manus snaps. Return to your cell before this gets ugly. Ha, like that would help. My cell is a bit busted. Still, no value in pointing that out. He's changing the subject on purpose, so I should call him out on that. That's not a denial, I say. You hate your creator, but you're still his creation in the end. You know nothing, Manus growls. I know that you have an entire crazy powerful talent that doesn't involve mind-fucking anyone, and you could get along just fine using nothing but that. And yet you still peel open more souls in the span of a month than I have since I became an obligate necromancer. You call it security, but it's just your excuse to be a monster. And honestly, I don't blame him. Because it's both. Manus' talent wants to be used, same as anyone, and he's using it in the best way he can while keeping that urge down. Is it a bit aggressive? Sure. Is it ridiculously intrusive? Oh yeah, absolutely. Would it actually catch any cognomancy performed on his Templars and allow him to protect them from it? Yeah, probably. Honestly, in his position, I might do the same thing. He's not really wrong. But he's still really fucking insecure about it, and I want him off balance. A dozen tendrils twist around to reach into my own soul, pulling out fragments. Debris is everywhere, not to mention Templar corpses, and my two enemies are hyper-aware of this. They are expecting to have to fight a zombie army, so instead of making one I fill my fragments with power, transforming them into hungering shards. The two Templars before me have no way to know the difference. And ours gave me an idea. It's obvious, now that I think about it. Souls can move. I don't understand how ours made souls that fly through the air under their own power, but they can certainly move. Why should my shards need a vessel in order to function? Why should they need blood in order to drink the soul? It's kind of an arbitrary limiter, isn't it? My power seems to sing at the question, the understanding at the edges of my awareness churning into my conscious mind. Yeah, this will work. I twist the hungering shards further, and throw them at my enemies like weighted daggers. I don't exactly have a lot of experience throwing things with my tentacles, so most of my shots are off course. Manus sees the attack thanks to his soul sight and dodges all but one of my shards, while his fellow Templar is not an Inquisitor and gets hit by 3 of my attacks. I immediately get an answer to my blood question. When my shards make contact with my enemies' souls and start gnawing at them, they don't really make much progress. I guess if I rip flesh out of someone I can bring bits of soul along without having to deal with magic resistance, but if it's just soul versus soul then magic resistance comes into play? Ours didn't seem to have that trouble, but maybe he was just that strong. Still, this seems handy. Magic resistance may be stopping my shards from dealing damage, but they aren't getting rid of the shards either. My attacks will keep trying to break through until something deals with them, and that's dangerous enough to force Manus to take his attention off me in order to do exactly that. A plan in my head starts to form. I can throw souls, huh? In that case, instead of trying to approach these two, I bet I can make them come to me. I feint a rapid movement forward, prompting Ice Guy to freeze a wall in front of me and obscure their vision of my position before I leap backwards, turning around and retreating back to the stairwell with Lynn and the others. The living and dead Templars are still on the landing for this floor, but Mom is already long gone, having run back down the stairs. Carved from stone, the spiral stairwell has no central column, only empty space, allowing one to look all the way up or down the construction, or, if they're particularly suicidal, jump all the way down. We are currently 14 floors from the bottom, which is about 200 feet. 2 years ago, I cracked both my legs after falling 20 feet on the stairs. I order my revenants. Go halfway to the next floor and stall for time. Keep their attention. Then I grab a terrified Jaleesa, vault over the handrail, and jump down the middle of the stairwell. Jaleesa screams as we fall about 5 stories, but I hold her head steady as I try to catch myself on a banister. It breaks, and I have to flail to grab the stairs underneath it to halt my fall completely. 2 of my revenants, the ones that had been on the lower floors freeing and collecting prisoners, immediately rush to my aid, worriedly helping me pull myself and Jaleesa up onto firm ground. Thanks, I grunt to them as we crawl to our feet, and then I kill them both. Their bodies jerk, go limp, and fall off the stairs, splattering open 9 stories below. I start pumping the souls as full as they can go with my mana as a smattering of stunned prisoners gape at me, all of whom are collared and most of whom seem to be somewhat out of their depth. The lower levels of the prison hold higher security prisoners, so each and every one of these people likely has a dangerous skill or talent. Only a few of them catch my interest, however: an ugly splice woman comprised of 3 equally sized soul fragments, a middle-aged man with a brandy-smelling auburn soul and impressively calm demeanor considering the current situation, and motherfucking inquisitive Victoria, who is a rather different kind of prisoner considering that her incarceration began after the jailbreak. 2 revenants have the fortune of guarding her instead of helping me to my feet, and thereby get to remain in their bodies slightly longer before I remove their souls. Although I still do that now, causing them to collapse on either side of little Vicky, which prompts a terrified yelp that I can't help but chuckle at. I could just kill her now, but as one of my personal torturers I'm still indecisive on what I want to do to her. I'll deal with you in a second, I promise her. I've still got a warden to kill. Who wants to help? A deluge of affirmation hits me in response, but I ignore the voices and pay attention to the souls. Most of the really eager ones seem a little bit unreliable. This is a prison, after all, so a bunch of people in here are the bad kind of crazy. The souls I'm interested in seem firmly against helping as well, which is... No, wait. I step over to the splice, grab her collar, and snap it, which makes the rest of the prisoners even more rowdy. You can help, I tell the splice. Make sure Jaleesa and Vicky don't do anything stupid. Lynn, you too. I don't want to help. Why you? The splice stutters at me, her whole body shaking. I roll an eye, popping the first chunk of collar metal down my throat. Then switch to the one that does. Nix, don't. Victoria begs. You don't have to listen to her. The splice freezes, panic on her face as she fights herself from within. With 2 tentacles I grab the parts of her I don't need, applying a gentle yet threatening pressure. Revulsion and terror fills them, but they can deal with it. I don't exactly have the time to argue right now. With another squeeze they concede the fight, and the woman stands up straighter, grinning a smile of twisted teeth. You remember us, work of art, she says happily, any trace of a stutter gone. Nope, I deny. I have no idea who you are. We can talk later. Man is finally finished pulling my fragments out of himself and Ice Sky, so they make their way to the stairs. As expected, they immediately start kicking the asses of my revenants up there. In the first second of the fight Manus just telekinetically pushes half of them over the banister, where they proceed to fall to their deaths. It was really quite thoughtful of him, since it lets me catch their souls before their bodies splatter on the ground below and shatter them into an inedible state. I just reach out a few tentacles and rip the souls out as the corpses fall, not impeding their descent in the slightest. They, too, get pushed full of mana. Meanwhile, the remaining few Templar revenants put up a rather pathetic fight, failing to do any damage to the more powerful duo as they chase my forces down the stairs. Which is perfect, really. All I need is for Manus to not pay much attention to the stairs themselves. Stone is a pretty tough material, after all, but so is wood by most measures. A small fragment of my soul can shatter branches with relative ease. A collection of Templar souls, therefore, should have little trouble ripping apart carved stone from the inside. Get out of the stairwell and into the hallway, I tell the living. Leaning out over the half-broken banister to better aim, I toss one mana-charged Templar soul into each floor's worth of winding stairwell between myself and Manus. They worm into the stone, threads blooming in every direction as my power fills the building itself. Break them all, I order. Cracks run through the rock, snaking jagged lines as they widen and bloom and finally explode, less than a second after my words leave my mouth. The floor beneath the Templars crumbles, dropping them into the gaping death pit below. Manus and Ice Guy, of course, immediately react by trying to use their talents. Kineticism can easily hold Manus in the air, and a block of ice can be a temporary, if uncomfortable platform. This is, in their minds, hardly a threat they aren't prepared for. But when the staircases shatter, so too do the souls within, releasing their massive payloads of blue. My mana is me. I can feel it, know it, and move it even if it isn't within my body. Normally this is somewhat useless, considering that it gets annihilated the moment it leaves my body. But the one other place my mana can be safe is inside a soul, and Templar souls can hold a fuckton of mana. Their threads were full to bursting with my beautiful essence. With Manus furious with rage and distracted by killing his former allies, he didn't notice the trap until it was too late. The Warden and his fellow Templar fall, their talents unusable in what is, for barely a second, my domain. But then the staircase below shatters, and the next as the pair accelerate down the shaft. I gather and push my disembodied self through the air, coating Manus and his lackey in mana I will not let them use. The Templar souls in the staircase are irrevocably shattered, worthless for even a meal, but in their place I get two souls of far greater strength. Much like the corpses Manus himself pushed off the edge, I collect his soul as he falls past me, tearing it free of his body before he can pull the tiniest shred of Mistwatcher mana back into himself. His partner meets the same fate. And now the prison is devoid of threats that can stop me. There's nothing left to do but clean up. I allow myself to let out a satisfied sigh. Someone go down and collect the bodies on the bottom floor. Bring the two most intact ones up to me. Why the fuck should we listen to you? Asks the demonstrably stupidest prisoner. I pull out his soul and eat it, allowing his collapsing body to be my answer. A few of the smarter ones scurry off to do my bidding. Watcher's saggy tits, what security did they put her under? Another goon mutters. Epsilon, I answer. There's an Epsilon? I just give an amused snort in response, turning towards where the Splice is standing arm in arm with Jaleesa and Vicky, grinning maliciously. I have no clue what this Splice's talents are, but the Inquisitors are more than terrified enough of it for me to be content that they won't start shit. Right then, I ask Victoria. Now what should I do with you? You shouldn't do anything with her, Vita, Jaleesa insists. You won. No one else has to die. Oh, so you're saying I should take her prisoner then, I sneer. Well, okay. She did teach me a lot on how to take care of a prisoner. I shove the shard into the collar of the Dorban-souled old man and order it open as I walk his way. He jolts in surprise when it clicks unlocked, and I pull it off of him before returning to Victoria. I walk right up next to her, glaring up into her damn chitin helmet. On your knees, I order her. She flinches, but fails to comply. Are you going to make me repeat myself? I ask calmly. Slowly, shakingly, she kneels in front of me. I rip her helmet off, snapping the straps, and click the prisoner collar into place. Now then, I sneer happily, raising a fist. Time for interrogation. Jaleesa, terror thumping through her soul, nonetheless breaks out of the Splice's casual hold and grabs my bicep. I stopped her, so I'll stop you too, she says firmly. You only stopped her after letting her get a few hits in, I remind her. Well, I'm better than I was then, she counters. You can be better than her. I almost break free and start beating the shit out of Victoria anyway, but to my surprise, Lynn also steps in. Hey, she says, scratching the back of her head. Revenge is kinda for pussies. You know? I blink. What? I just mean it's like. Gah. I don't know, Rowan is better at this than I am. It's stupid. It's cowardly. What's the point? I'm honestly surprised Lynn is uncomfortable with this. This is just how it's done. Someone steals your food? Bullies you out of a good begging spot? Touches your Roscoe? Well, now you have to kick the shit out of them or else they'll do it again. But I haven't seen my mom in 2 years, so the thought of disappointing her now, for whatever reason, is enough to make me reconsider my promise to kill every Templar here. I hate breaking promises, but, well, I guess I never said when I would kill everybody here. Fine, I grumble, eliciting a sigh of relief and a surge of hope from Jaleesa. Fuck if I know what she's hopeful about, though. There's no way I'm going to let Victoria go. Just don't do anything stupid, Vicky. Thank you for being merciful to her, work of art, the splice hums, 2/3 of her still brimming with feelings of violation. We understand she was not good to you, but she was to us. Well, I guess now is as good a time as any. Who are you? I ask her. I'm Excorio. We are Aldrix. Sano and Nyx are my other shards. We are saddened that you do not remember us, Vita. Did your changes damage your memory? I scowl. A rather powerful cognomancer recently implied I lost some of mine, yeah, but I assume that was his fault. Or you're just bullshitting me. We see. Well, we are all happy to see you again. We helped raise you before our capture. You are like a, I suppose a daughter, to us? What was that pause for? She was about to say something else by habit, and is relieved to have caught it. It doesn't feel like an omission at my expense, though. She just feels embarrassed about it. Well, I don't know you and my mom is right here so I'm afraid I can't reciprocate, I grunt. But I certainly don't have anything against you either. Feel free to tag along, or whatever. We shall, she agrees, bowing slightly. I can feel she's hurt by my words, but I don't really want to deal with it. The rest of me will also cause no problems, so long as you cause no harm to our favorite Inquisitor. I glance at Yelisaveta and snort. Well, I guess if I'm entitled to one, maybe you are too. As long as your favorite Inquisitor plays along. Her bow becomes deeper for a moment, and then she stands back up straight. I guess that's the end of that conversation. So your name is Vita, then? The middle-aged man whose collar I took asks from behind me. That's me, I confirm, turning to face him a few moments before remembering to turn and face him with my physical face as well. It's good to meet you. I am Jeremiah. May I ask why you removed my collar, Vita? I like the smell of your soul, I tell him honestly. There's a pause. Nobody seems to like that answer for some reason. I don't mean that in like a I want to eat it way, I clarify. At least not any more than usual. That reassures him even less. I've been getting good practice on freaking people out and pissing people off, but the opposite still seems to elude me. Whatever, what would be the point of manipulating someone into feeling better anyway? Manipulating people has to be reserved for the extra special assholes or I would socially exhaust myself after like 2 conversations. Anyway, nice to meet you, Jeremiah. The rest of you can line up and I'll start snapping collars. Then we're going to the upper floors. I hate every reason why this is the case, but some part of me does appreciate that this prison got its prisoners good at following orders. My earlier murder probably helped, and I can hardly regret it considering that prisoner had been thinking rather vividly about murdering me and, if I was interpreting his disgusting slew of emotions properly, animating and having sex with my mind-controlled corpse. Considering how shitty the Templars are, it can be easy to forget that a significant chunk of their prisoners are admittedly much worse. Accordingly, I ask everyone 2 simple questions before removing their collars. Do you intend to hurt me or anyone I care about? No, the greasy-looking older woman in front of me confirms. She's not lying, which is good because those that do lie, and those that say yes, will get eaten. Are you willing to obey me as long as we are together? Until we get out of this damn prison, sure, she answers. But then I'm going my own way. I nod. That's fine by me. I open her collar, tear off a chunk of it to swallow, and call the next person down the line. Do you intend to hurt me or anyone I care about? Shit, no, I'm not stupid. Are you willing to obey me as long as we are together? You're eating metal like it's steamed fucking crab meat. Yes. By the end of the line I have an interesting collection of Gamma and Delta prisoners. 8 of them survive and get their collars popped, 10 of them I deem dangerously unstable and turn into meals, and 3 of them aren't really crazy or evil but they certainly think I am, so I regretfully decided to leave their collars on and see if they mellow out. Manus and Ice Guy are also now my revenants, placed in relatively fresh bodies, though I've ordered them both not to talk. May I just protest your general policy of releasing large numbers of animancers back into the public? Yelisaveta mutters. She doesn't expect me to care but feels like she has to say it. Sure, but it's probably a dumb idea to do it to their faces, I tell her. Besides, if they start fucking around in Skyhope, I will consider that endangering people I care about and track them down. The capital stays animancy free, got it? Various noises of acknowledgement echo behind me. See? It'll be fine. All the places other than the capital? Jaleesa demands. You're just going to let them cast as much animancy as they please? Well, I don't know what else you expect me to do with them, I grumble. My skills are murder and unmurder, and I've doled out what I consider reasonable amounts of both already. Look, most of the living ones aren't going to be doing anything stupid. No one wants to just get caught again and end up back in a place like this. Wait, you intend to go back to the capital? One of the prisoners asks. That's crazy. There are going to be inquisitors swarming everywhere when they know we all got out. You'll get caught in minutes. I can't just not go see the rest of my family, I insist. And I can't just not go see Penelope, but I don't intend to say her name out loud in front of witnesses. She'd be so mad. We could always go to you, Lynn says. Or you could hide somewhere in the forest and we could meet in the middle. I'll think about it, I grunt. It is a good point. It might put my family in danger if I meet them in Skyhope. Shit. Am I going to need to destroy the entire fucking church just so I can eat breakfast at home again? Is that what this is going to come down to? No, there has to be a less ridiculous way than that. I'll have to think about it, like I said. It's a long walk home, after all.